What if Coraline never really escaped the Beldam's clutches? What if every character around her is already dead? And what's the dark truth behind Mr. Babinski's blue skin? Today, we're diving into the creepiest Coraline fan theories that will change the way you see this movie forever.
You may come out when you've learned to be a loving daughter.
There's no happy ending. What if Coraline never truly escaped the Beldam's trap? One chilling theory suggests exactly that. By the end of the movie, Coraline and Wybie destroy the Beldam's severed hand, lock the key in the well, and everything seems fine. Her parents are suddenly attentive, throwing her a garden party and even buying her the gloves she wanted. But hold on. That's exactly the kind of too-good-to-be-true illusion the Beldam would create, right? Fans argue that this ending is a false sense of victory. The Beldam may have manipulated Coraline into thinking she's safe, when in reality she's still under her spell. Remember how the door was cracked, allowing the severed hand through? That crack might still be enough for the Beldam to reach her, making Coraline's supposed escape nothing more than the start of another twisted game. If that's not enough to convince you, take a look at the disappearing cat in the final scene, a possible clue that Coraline is still in the Beldam's clutches. The garden, which looks suspiciously like the one in the other world, adds even more fuel to the theory. Coraline could be trapped forever in an illusion of safety. Every character is dead. What if everyone Coraline interacts with in the Pink Palace is already dead? This theory, born from Reddit, paints a pretty bleak picture. Mr. Babinski, the eccentric neighbor with blue skin, might actually be a liquidator who worked in the Chernobyl disaster cleanup. His radiation exposure could explain his odd color, and his medal might be a tribute to his service. Essentially, Babinski might have died from radiation poisoning and is now stuck in the Pink Palace as a ghost. The theory doesn't stop with him. Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, the elderly ex-burlesque stars, may have died naturally long ago. Coraline's parents could be dead too, victims of the car accident mentioned early in the movie, which would explain Coraline's mother's neck brace and the cold, disconnected way they treat her. This theory draws a line between the garden, representing heaven, and the other world, symbolizing hell. Coraline's journey could be about helping the souls trapped in this limbo state, including her own. And what if her parents' sudden enthusiasm for gardening at the end signifies that they've finished their business and are now ready to move on, leaving Coraline behind in a ghostly existence? Spink and Forcible knew about the lost children. Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, those seemingly harmless tea-serving neighbors, they knew a lot more about the other world than they let on. One theory from YouTuber The Fangirl suggests that these two eccentric women were fully aware of the Beldam and the lost children. Remember when they gave Coraline the stone that helps her find bad things? That stone was essential in locating the ghost children's eyes, hinting that they might have known about the missing souls long before Coraline came along. Then there's the strange taffy bowls, with years written above them. The bowls could symbolize the years when the children were taken by the Beldam. It's almost as if they've been tracking the Beldam's victims this whole time, but chose not to intervene until Coraline. Could it be that they were somehow complicit in the Beldam's schemes, or were they just powerless witnesses? Abusive home theory. Coraline's real horror might not be the Beldam, but her own mother. This theory digs into the idea that the other world is a metaphor for Coraline's emotional reality at home. Coraline's real mother is emotionally unavailable and neglectful, constantly arguing with her. But when Coraline enters the other world, her other mother showers her with attention and love until the facade breaks down. The other mother's behavior mirrors that of an abusive, two-faced parent. In public, they act perfectly kind, but behind closed doors, they reveal their true, manipulative nature. The other mother is only using Coraline to feed off her emotionally, much like an abuser who drains their victim's energy and life over time. Even the other father seems to be under other mother's control, just as a codependent parent might enable their abusive partner. Wybie, being on Coraline's side, shows Coraline that he knows what she's going through and does his best to help her in both worlds. This interpretation gives Coraline a whole new layer of horror. The real world isn't much safer than the other world. The door wasn't the only portal. Coraline's journey to the other world begins with a simple door. It's the gateway to the Beldam's twisted version of her reality. But what if that door wasn't the only portal? One fan theory suggests that there might be another, even more sinister way to access the other world. The well at the end of the movie. When Coraline throws the key into the well, she believes she's finally rid of the Beldam. But look closer. The area surrounding the well is lined with mushrooms that form a fairy ring, a symbol often associated with portals to other dimensions in folklore. This raises the disturbing possibility that the well itself could be another entrance to the beldam's realm, hidden in plain sight. In throwing the key into the well, Coraline might not be sealing her escape, but actually giving the beldam another opportunity to retrieve it. What if Coraline's final act of supposed victory was, in fact, the beldam's long-game strategy to keep her tied to this world? It's a theory that suggests Coraline is never truly safe, and the beldam might still be lurking, just waiting for her moment to strike again. What if Kevin McAllister, the fun-loving trickster from Home Alone, grew up to become one of horror's most twisted minds? Jigsaw. As crazy as it sounds, there's a fan theory floating around that connects these two iconic characters in unexpected ways. In today's video, we're diving deep into the idea that the kid who loved setting traps for burglars became the man who turned traps into deadly games.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
From fun to fatal. First, let's talk about what these two characters have in common: their love for traps. Kevin McAllister is known for his ingenious booby traps, from swinging paint cans to slicking up the stairs. These are all designed to outsmart the wet bandits and defend his home in the most painful but hilarious way possible. Sure, they're fun to watch, but doctors and engineers have weighed in, saying that Kevin's traps should have caused serious, if not fatal, injuries. And yet, somehow, the burglars walk away with just a few bruises. Now, let's look at Jigsaw. His traps are far from playful. They're terrifying, deadly, and designed to push his victims to the brink. Like Kevin, Jigsaw also has a knack for taking everyday objects and turning them into elaborate devices meant to trap his victims. But while Kevin's traps are created to defend, Jigsaw's traps force people to confront life or death decisions. The creativity behind both sets of traps suggests that Kevin's childhood ingenuity might have evolved into something much darker as he got older. Is it possible that Kevin's love for traps grew into a more sinister form as an adult? Some fans think so, especially when you consider how much he enjoyed seeing the burglars suffer. Could Kevin's childhood pranks have laid the foundation for Jigsaw's deadly games? Kevin's enjoyment of suffering. Kevin doesn't just set traps, he seems to enjoy watching the burglars get hurt. There are several moments in Home Alone where Kevin grins or even laughs as his traps cause serious pain. Whether it's Harry getting torched or Marv slipping on the icy stairs, Kevin clearly gets a kick out of seeing his victims fall into his carefully planned traps. While this is all played for laughs in the movie, it does make you wonder, what if that enjoyment of causing pain didn't stop when Kevin grew up? Jigsaw, while more extreme, also derives a certain satisfaction from his traps, though for different reasons. He believes he's teaching his victims a lesson about appreciating life. His traps are designed to test their will to live, and he watches their suffering unfold. Could it be that Kevin's childhood joy in seeing the wet bandits suffer evolved into Jigsaw's twisted desire to teach people through pain? Both characters seem to get a certain thrill from watching others fall into their traps, but the motivations shift from playful to sinister. While Kevin's motives were purely defensive in Home Alone, there's no denying that he took great pleasure in seeing his plan succeed. It raises the question, could this childhood love of control and punishment grow into something darker? It's not hard to imagine a future Kevin looking for new ways to test his skills, and eventually, his victims. New York, the setting of future plans? Another interesting connection between Kevin and Jigsaw comes in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. In this movie, Kevin ends up navigating the streets of New York City, using his wits and creativity to survive on his own. While he's having fun, Kevin also spends a lot of time exploring large, empty spaces, like the abandoned townhouse he fills with traps. Some fans speculate that Kevin's fascination with these spaces could have influenced his future as Jigsaw, who operates out of industrial areas in the city. In the Saw franchise, Jigsaw often works out of dilapidated warehouses and abandoned buildings. Much like the ones Kevin explored in New York, both characters demonstrate a unique ability to turn any environment into a deadly playground. Could it be that Kevin's experiences in New York laid the foundation for Jigsaw's later operations? Both characters seem to thrive in urban spaces where they can manipulate their surroundings to suit their plans. And let's not forget Kevin's love for toys, particularly in Home Alone 2, where he's mesmerized by the massive toy store, Duncan's Toy Chest. Jigsaw, interestingly enough, was a toy maker before he turned to engineering and creating deadly traps. It's not hard to imagine Kevin's childhood fascination, with toys evolving into a love for crafting intricate, dangerous devices as an adult. Could his early experiences in New York have led to a future where he turned his talents to something far darker? The physical and emotional transformation. Now let's talk about the physical and emotional transformation. Kevin McAllister, with his blonde hair and blue eyes, could easily grow up to resemble Jigsaw. While this might seem like a stretch, it's an intriguing idea when you consider that Kevin, as a child, was already showing signs of being emotionally hardened. In both Home Alone films, Kevin's family neglects him, either forgetting about him entirely or treating him poorly. This kind of emotional abandonment could have long-lasting effects, especially on someone as intelligent and resourceful as Kevin. In the Saw franchise, Jigsaw is driven by a tragic backstory. He's a man who has faced loss and terminal illness, which pushes him toward his twisted view of justice. While Kevin's journey isn't nearly as tragic, the theory suggests that his early feelings of abandonment could have sparked a desire for control, leading him down a darker path. Kevin was always left to his own devices, literally and figuratively, and maybe that isolation festered into something more dangerous over time. Horror movies aren't just meant to scare us, they're designed to make us confront our deepest fears, question what's real,
Saw these assholes before!
and remind us that the unknown is always lurking just beyond the shadows. With everyone's favorite spooky holiday quickly approaching, there's no better time to dive into some dark theories and hidden secrets of some of our favorite horror films. Let's get to it.
Certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
The Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project is a film from 1999 that follows three student filmmakers, Heather, Mike, and Josh, who venture into the woods of Burkittsville, Maryland, to investigate the local legend of the Blair Witch. As they document their journey, strange and eerie events begin to unfold. Unsettling noises at night, mysterious stick figures and rock formations appear around their campsite. For years, we've believed the terror came from a supernatural force, an ancient witch haunting the woods. But what if the witch never existed? According to a compelling fan theory, the real monsters were Mike and Josh all along. Think about it for a second. Mike admits to throwing away the map, yet he's completely unfazed when it goes missing. Josh criticizes Heather relentlessly throughout the trip. The unsettling sounds at night? Could Mike, the sound engineer, have staged them? The stick figures and rock formations left there ahead of time for Heather to discover. Every creepy encounter wasn't the work of some unseen force, but the result of two friends toying with Heather's mind. And in the end, when Heather finds Mike standing eerily still in the basement facing the wall, was he possessed by the witch? Or was it part of their final, horrifying plan? Rewatching the Blair Witch Project with this theory in mind turns the supernatural horror into a film about human betrayal, which can be just as terrifying. Scream. The Scream franchise revolves around a series of murders committed by different individuals wearing the iconic Ghostface mask, with each killer inspired by horror movie tropes. The first film introduces Sidney Prescott, a high school student who becomes the primary target of Ghostface after her mother's murder. Over the course of the franchise, Sidney, along with her friends and law enforcement, battles various killers, all of whom have their own twisted motives tied to her family or personal connections. We all know Billy and Stu as the twisted masterminds behind the Ghostface killings, the original Scream, but one theory makes their partnership even darker. What if Billy and Stu weren't just friends, but half-brothers? Scream 3 revealed that Billy's motive was rooted in his mother's affair with Sidney's father, but this theory suggests that Billy wasn't the only one with a personal vendetta. Stu, too, was driven by a family secret, his father's affair with Billy's mother. This theory gives Stu a deeper motive. It wasn't just about the thrill of the kill for him. It was personal revenge against the parents who betrayed him. Their partnership wasn't just a psychotic game. It was two boys, abandoned and broken by their families, finding twisted solace in their mutual hatred. This theory adds a new tragic layer to Stu's character. He's not just a thrill seeker, but someone consumed by the lies and secrets of his family. I could also go into a theory about how Stu is still alive, but that's for a later video. The Thing. For over 4 decades, this 1982 sci-fi horror classic has left viewers haunted, debating the same question. Who among the survivors is human and who has been infected by the alien parasite? The terror in The Thing comes not only from the alien itself, but from the slow creeping paranoia that makes the characters and us question everything and everyone. But what if that paranoia is only scratching the surface? One theory suggests something much bigger. A theory originally posted to Reddit claims that there weren't just one, but 2 opposing things from the very start. 2 alien creatures secretly at war, using the humans as their battleground. The first thing, it came from the dog that we see in the opening scenes, the one running away from the Norwegian camp. The second, it came from the Norwegian scientist chasing it. The Norwegian scientist is desperately trying to kill the dog. If he were infected by the same alien entity, why would he want to destroy another infected creature? It doesn't make sense, unless the dog is carrying a different thing. That would explain the erratic behavior at the base, why some infected characters don't seem to cooperate, why no one fully trusts anyone else.
I don't know who to trust.
I know what you mean, Blair. Trust's a tough thing to come by these days.
The men at the camp aren't just victims of an alien invasion. They're pawns in a hidden war between two opposing extraterrestrial forces. This theory posits that each thing has its own agenda, and the humans are caught in the middle of an interstellar conflict they never even realize is happening. The Witch. Robert Eggers' 2015 horror masterpiece terrified audiences with its tale of supernatural dread. But what if there was never a witch at all? A chilling fan theory suggests that the real horror isn't lurking in the woods, but in the mind of Thomasin herself. The theory claims that every time we see the witch or some supernatural event, it's either before Thomasin sleeps or after she wakes, implying that the witch might be nothing more than a dream. It suggests that Thomasin, overwhelmed by the suffocating suspicion of her family, could have caused their downfall herself. Some even believe she murdered her siblings, not out of malice, but to protect them from their abusive father. The witch? Just a coping mechanism, a figment of her imagination to ease her guilt. This idea doesn't just fit with The Witch, it taps into folk horror's long tradition of portraying humans as the true evil, like in The Wicker Man or Witchfinder General. It also mirrors the witch hysteria of the 1600s, where fear and superstition caused real harm, just as Thomasin's imagined evil does to her family. If this theory is true, it would mean that we, as the audience, have been rooting for the real villain all along, making the film's slow descent into madness even more terrifying. Army of Darkness. 1992's Army of Darkness is beloved for its wild action, slapstick humor, and Ash Williams' over-the-top bravado. But what if the entire medieval adventure was all in Ash's head? There's an interesting fan theory that suggests Ash never actually traveled back in time. Instead, the events of Army of Darkness are the delusions of a man driven mad by the horrors he endured in Evil Dead 2. In Evil Dead 2, we witness Ash spiral into madness, particularly in the infamous scene where he laughs hysterically alongside the cabin's inanimate objects. This theory argues that from this moment on, Ash's mind breaks completely. The dramatic tonal shift from horror to slapstick humor marks Ash's descent into a fantasy world where he's not a terrified survivor, but a clumsy, quippy hero. Instead of facing his trauma, he escapes into a delusion where he's transported to the Middle Ages, leading an absurd battle against skeletons and demons. Throughout Army of Darkness, Ash's behavior is more comical than heroic. He bumbles his way through battles, yet always seems to win. According to the theory, these exaggerated triumphs are Ash's way of coping with the trauma he experienced. He's not a medieval hero, he's still in the cabin, trapped in his own mind, using these fantasies to escape the horror of what happened to him. Regardless, the film is a lot of fun either way.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
What if that world of pure imagination isn't as innocent as it seems? Today, we're diving deep into one of the wildest fan theories out there, one that connects Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory to the horror masterpiece, The Cabin in the Woods. So buckle up, because we're about to see the beloved family classic in an entirely new light. Introduction to the theory. At first glance, Willy Wonka's tour of his magical chocolate factory seems like a quirky, albeit slightly dangerous, romp through a candy wonderland. But what if there's more lurking beneath the surface? According to a popular theory, Wonka isn't just handing out golden tickets for fun. He's conducting a ritual designed to appease the Ancient Ones, the same terrifying gods from The Cabin in the Woods. In The Cabin in the Woods, we see a ritual where characters are sacrificed to please these powerful beings. The participants play specific archetypal roles: the whore, the athlete, the fool, the scholar, and the virgin. Disturbingly, Willy Wonka follows a similar pattern. The ritual begins first. Augustus Gloop, a boy so consumed by his desire for chocolate that he becomes the first to fall. In the Cabin in the Woods ritual, the first to die must be the whore, but the term isn't meant literally here. Augustus's gluttony, his inability to resist temptation, fits this archetype perfectly. Like the ritual's rules, his fate was sealed the moment he gave in to his cravings.
Possible, my dear lady, that's absurd, unthinkable.
Next, Violet Beauregarde. She's fiercely competitive, a gum-chewing champion, and full of arrogance, just like the athlete archetype from The Cabin in the Woods. In that film, the athlete is strong but reckless, and Violet meets her end when her self-assurance leads to her transformation into a giant blueberry. Wonka knew the risks, but it was all part of the plan.
The suspense is terrible.
He's gonna go this time.
I hope it'll last.
The Fool and the Scholar. Then there's Veruca Salt, spoiled, headstrong, and foolish. Her blatant disregard for Wonka's warnings and her insistence on getting what she wants is her downfall. Just like Marty, the fool from the cabin in the woods, Veruca's foolishness leads her to an early exit. And then there's Mike Teavee, the self-proclaimed genius with a love for technology. His endless fascination with Willy Wonka's machines seals his fate. He's the scholar, the intellectual of the group, whose curiosity brings about his demise. Much like the cabin in the woods scholar character, Mike's knowledge leads him right into the trap, and he's shrunk down to a mere speck.
What about people?
People?
The virgin survives, and finally we arrive at Charlie Bucket, the innocent, the pure-hearted, our virgin. In the cabin in the woods, the virgin is always the last one standing, sometimes surviving the ritual, sometimes not.
The virgin's death is optional as long as it's last. Main thing is that she, suffers.
Charlie, too, faces temptation, the infamous fizzy-lifting drinks. But in the end, his goodness shines through. He resists the ultimate transgression, and as a reward, he's spared. But that's not all. He's chosen to be Wonka's successor. It seems as though he's not just spared, but rewarded for his role in completing the ritual. The evidence stacks up. There's more evidence that supports this eerie theory. Have you ever noticed that the vehicles during Wonka's tour always have just the right number of seats? Like the boat during the Chocolate River scene, or the Wonkavator? It's as if Willy Wonka had anticipated exactly how many children would survive each segment of the tour, almost as if he knew who would die, and when. From the archetypal roles to the order of the deaths, and even to Wonka's calm, knowing demeanor. He's not just giving a tour. He's completing a ritual, and unlike the cabin in the woods, where the ancient ones eventually rise, this time, the ritual works. Whether or not this theory holds any real weight, one thing is certain: Willy Wonka's factory is no ordinary Candyland. It's a place where rules are bent, and perhaps dark rituals are carried out under the guise of whimsical wonder. So next time you watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, remember, you might not just be watching a children's movie. You could be witnessing the successful completion of an ancient, terrifying ritual. If you enjoyed this dive into the dark side of Willy Wonka, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending movie theories. And let us know in the comments, do you think Wonka was performing the ritual all along? Or is this theory just a little too far-fetched? Until next time, stay curious.